This is the world premiere of Life, Love, and Lessons. Tonight, let me introduce you to our amazing expert panelist. We have, really excited this time, Judge Lynn Toler. Judge Lynn is a lawyer and retired judge, former host of the nationally syndicated television show Divorce Court for many years. So she is a family expert. So if you've got a question about anything that's going on within your family, bring it on, post it in the chat. We want to know. And she is currently co-hosting Marriage Boot Camp, Hip Hop Edition, which is on Thursday night. So if you love her tonight, you're going to love her even more tomorrow. And we are joined by her other co-host on Marriage Boot Camp, Dr. Ish Major, whose video is off for a minute, but I'm sure he'll be right back. Dr. Ish is, there he is, a real life, he is a real life board certified psychiatrist, dating and relationship expert, host of WeTV's Marriage Boot Camp, and he was named one of the prestigious honors of America's top psychiatrist for more than 3 years, and is recognized by the International Association of Healthcare Professionals as one of the leading physicians in the world. So you are lucky to be here tonight with Dr. Ish, and we are grateful. Also, we have Light, Love, and Life with psychologist Alyssa Gruber. She is a therapist, a trauma and addiction specialist, a meditation instructor, a wellness expert, a change maker, an author, an advocate, so humanitarian at heart, and certainly global citizen. And me, I'm just Louisa. I'm a college professor, a TEDx speaker. I'm a mom on a mission to really make sure that women, especially single women at home, can figure out this man stuff. So I've enlisted this team of experts to help all of you at home, just like me, figure this out. And when I'm not hosting a Wednesday night show, I'm a college professor, and currently I'm teaching around the world for an international entrepreneurial program this summer. So welcome you all to Life, Love, and Lessons.
And before we go any further, I would just like to shout out to Louisa because, drum roll, it is her birthday, so maybe we could just give her a little birthday love. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Louisa. Happy birthday
to you. Yes, yes.
As a public service, I did not sing. I just
True story. I was born on the same day as my sister, and all of our lives, we didn't know what to call it. And so today, in honor of my 45th birthday, I should really start doing grown-up things. I registered a new word with Urban Dictionary. Today, yours truly coined the term Amish twin, two people in the same family, born on the same day. Coming soon to Urban Dictionary.
All right, sounds good.
So, you know, you heard it here on Life, Love, and Lessons. First lesson, if there's someone born in your family on the same day, that is your Amish twin. Not to be confused with your Irish twin, which would be a brother or sister born within the same birth year or the same 12 months. So, you know, first lesson, new word. There you go. So, you know, I thought we'd just sort of kick it off. And this show is really more like just a real conversation. You know, we don't have a red table in front of us because all we've got are these 4 screens, but we're going to talk about real issues. And I thought tonight we just kind of started off with Judge Lynn because she's got so many people connected with her around the world and just really wanted to know what's going on in the world. You know, how are families managing? What are people talking about? And what's happening in life?
Well, there's a layer upon layer upon layer of pressure, and anxiety is out the roof. In my DMs, everywhere I go, it's like, how do I deal with it? What do I do? Either you're worried about the health issues or the economic issues, and then everybody's out there, you know, mad at the people asking them to put on masks because they don't have a sense of control in the rest of their life, so they can yell and scream at that. So everybody's trying to adjust to this new level of pressure and anxiety, especially when, you know, our country has become so polarized. And I think it's a time where we need to sit down and take our own personal temperatures. Mm-hmm. So when we get out and about, we don't continue to act a fool.
Oh, that is so true. Dr. Ish, you're laughing. Did you see some people acting like fools?
Only on Thursday nights on the show.
You know what? That's really true. And that actually was going to be my next question to you. You know, are the rumors true Is the pandemic hurting relationships?
Yeah, I think the rumors are definitely true. A marriage magnifies what's there, right? Everything that's good and everything that's bad. And so with the corona crisis and this virus, it's put that to the level of 100, right? And so couples have really been forced to take a look at everything that they have and everything that they don't, right? It's easy to trick your brain into settling into doing the thing that's easy when you've got a million distractions to not have to worry about. But now those million distractions are gone because we have to be careful about where we go and what we do and who we do it with. And so now those million distractions are down to about 5, right? We're all at home. We're cooking the same 5 things to eat every single week. We're watching the same 5 TV shows. We're thinking about going to the same 5 places. And so those distractions aren't there. So it's forced us all to sit and take a really long, hard look at our partners and a really hard look at ourselves. And so now we know exactly what we do have. And more importantly, it's shown us everything that we don't have. And so we know that the divorce rate has spiked to nearly 55% just in the last 3 months alone. And people are really figuring out, this thing is really triggered like a mini existential crisis. Who am I and what is my life about? What is my purpose? And so being forced to sit and take a look at yourself in the mirror and also your partner is forced couples to ask that really hard question, which is this all there is? And a lot of people are coming up with answers that they really don't like.
Hey, nope. No.
Exactly.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Well, I would imagine that it's a lot like retirement, really, right? So for Judge Lynn, maybe you can kind of share just a little bit, because now that when your life changes abruptly and things that you used to do, you no longer do, like what's the first thing that you used to do to get yourself on track?
The odd thing is it didn't change that much for me. I used to tape divorce court 16 days a year. So my husband and I have spent a lot of time encamped together. So we know when to drift apart. We know when to go outside. Can't everybody always get back in? But, there's a rhythm and a routine to it. And if you figure it out over time, we've been put it into this in crisis mode all of a sudden. And nobody's really like, oh, now what do we do? But if you can give any change some time and attention, you can probably work your way through it. But I don't think these days we're much on keeping our head down when it gets ugly. I don't know. Dr. Ish, what do you think? I don't know if I'm right or wrong about that.
I think you're exactly right about that. It's the big word that you pointed out was routine, right? It's the routine that helps us know that things are okay. If I can wake up tomorrow and do the same thing that I did today, then I've got a pretty good chance that tomorrow's going to be all right. But if I got to do something totally different tomorrow than I did today, which is even different from what I did on Monday, then I don't really know what I'm doing, right? And so it's the routine that's getting us all out of whack. Our brains are creatures of habit. We like doing the same thing. I like getting up at the same time, taking the same route to work, having the same coffee out of the same mug, going to lunch at the same time, going to at the same place, usually 3 or 4 days a week, right? And so now all that's out the window, and it's like, okay, it's like everybody's house is burning down now, right? And when your house is on fire, what do? You reach for the things that are near to you that mean the most. Where's my wife? Where's my husband? Where's my partner? Where are the kids? Where are the keys? Where's the money? What am I going to need to get through this thing? And as folks are kind of reaching for those things that are close, they're realizing that they don't have quite as tight a grip on a lot of it as they thought.
Yeah, that's
Love.
yeah, Alicia. I mean, Alyssa, I think that's what you wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah, I think that both of you two encapsulated it perfectly. I think we are creatures of habit, often to our detriment, because we become so emotionally and spiritually reliant on our program that we miss a lot of substance. I was thinking today about some of the philosophy I was exposed to when traveling globally, and I was up in the high Himalayas, which is a very isolated place, and I was, getting learnings passed down from a multi-generational teacher, and he said, we as human beings have the most complex, sophisticated operating system. And it's like we don't know how to find the keyboard. Like we have everything, but we're always reaching for these random things to satisfy that longing for freedom. When really, The freedom is within. Now, somebody might say, well, that's the hokiest thing I've ever heard. I'm a single mom here with 5 kids jumping on me all the time. There is no freedom. I assure you, there is. It's just a question of re-understanding purpose, discipline, and patience. That's really a great alchemy. Purpose, discipline, and patience. Because when everything goes topsy-turvy, we're going to be led astray unless there is something anchoring us that keeps us held deeply in our values, within our relationships, within our jobs, within our new iterations as homemakers, whether we choose to be or not. So I think that that waywardness can be soothed, actually, but it's really easy to really feel that existential friction. Most Americans are not used to sitting in their home. Like, they're not. Most Americans are not accustomed to being with themselves for extended periods of time. Mm-hmm. So this is new, but it's new, old wisdom that we're really tapping into for the first time in a long time for many of us culturally.
One of the things we wanted to do with this new format, Life, Love, and Lessons, is we wanted to start each show in the beginning with kind of like a moment of centering to kind of get your intentions right. And so whether you're in a mood, in the mood, having a mood swing, I thought we could talk just briefly with Alyssa, kind of giving us some wisdom to how do you get centered while the word and the world is changing, and what can we do right now as we're initiating this, small fragment of time to be centered in on this information?
Yeah, it's real privileged to talk about this because I think it's one of the greatest pieces of our shared humanity. There is a place within all of us that is greater than any of our life's challenges. And that place is presence. So I think a great word to think about today is presence. How do we fully inhabit our life as it is without running away? How are we present in our lives when things are difficult without escaping? One of my favorite authors, Pema Chodron, always talks about the wisdom of no escape. So that word presence means a lot to me because I think it's really easy to check out when we get overloaded. When everybody's screaming and the house is chaotic and the bills are piling up and the news is horrific, like it's very easy to not be present because it's overwhelming. But ironically, finding that presence in yourself equips you to be better able to deal with all the things around you. So secular in every means, spiritual in every means, it applies to all denominations. If you could just take a moment of stillness, just to really listen to the silence. Just listen to your own silence.
I think that's really important to know. And for those of you who are watching along, being present for these 45 minutes, we promise to kind of keep it succinct, is really important because you can watch anything on TV, right? You can get entertained, you can get enlightened, you can, find some drama, you can be sad, you can watch Christmas in July. But you know what? That's a form of escapism. And sometimes you need that and you check out in your own life. But we're trying to help you check back in to help you kind of reconnect. I see lots of questions in the chat and we're definitely going to get to them. But what I thought we'd just kind of start with is, a lot of you have questions about, can you find new love in COVID? And then you start to get worried about, oh my gosh, I'm never going to find someone, or oh my gosh, I'm never going to go back to my job. And you actually start to have a real life panic attack. So maybe Dr. Rush, you can kind of, share some knowledge about the science of panic attacks and can you prevent it and just anything in general that might help us along.
Yeah, so it's the first thing you got to do is know the difference between what's anxiety and what's panic, right? I mean, we all have worry. We all have things we think about a little bit too long. We all have thoughts that knock around in our head and we can't really get them out. And, when that worry leads to a level that's constant, a level that we can't get the thought out of our head. And it's a constant pressure. We feel like no matter what we do, we can't stop thinking about it. Well, that causes anxiety, right? And some people have a lot of anxiety. Some folks have a little bit of anxiety. But once that anxiety flips the switch and you start having physical symptoms, then we call that panic, right? And it can last from anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. when we talk about sheer panic. It is exactly that. It is when the irrational thought, the emotional thought, causes physical symptoms. And those physical symptoms can be heart palpitations, they can be racing heartbeat, your pupils widen, the hair stand up on your arms, on the back of your neck. You know, the heart starts racing, the blood starts pumping because it's triggering a fight or flight or freeze response, right? You literally think it is time to take action because the thought has gotten that real to you, and it triggers those physical responses. I think people say, well, what's the difference between an anxiety attack and a panic attack? Well, an anxiety attack is when you're sitting around, or you're driving home, or you're doing whatever, and this thought just kind of grips you. You just can't get out of your head. You just worry until something else happens that you're able to distract yourself. A panic attack is one of those things that comes on suddenly, instantaneously. Most people will say, well, I don't know where it comes from, and I didn't see it coming. Well, if you take your time and look around, there's usually a trigger lurking somewhere in the bushes. But the hallmark symptom of the panic is that it comes on suddenly, and if you ask people what it is they think is happening in that moment, they will tell you, I think I'm going to die. I think I'm having a heart attack. I think I can't get enough breath. I don't understand what else is going on with me. In that moment, I think I am going to die, right? And there's no real test to diagnose it. It's one of those things, you diagnose in the office or as you're talking to somebody on the phone. There's some tests for OCD and things like that, but it's a very structured clinical setting that would even use that. And so for panic, you think you're going to die. And so the first question I ask any anxiety or panic patient who comes into the office with me is, when is the last time you had a panic attack and you died from it? And then they start laughing. They're like, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. And because it's one of those things, right? You really just have to use as much evidence as you can to combat the irrational thoughts. Hey, I've been here before. I felt these symptoms before. I didn't die then. Chances are I'm not going to die now. Let's look at what else could be happening that's triggering this. And it's really about helping people work their way back and identifying some of those subconscious triggers that they're not recognizing, because the thought is, the thought you're having in the panic attack is the worst thought you're having in a relationship, is that I'm not okay, right? I'm not okay. So let's figure out some ways where we are okay, and let's check. Vision, check. Intact. I'm actually worrying and thinking and telling somebody I'm having a panic attack, therefore I am still breathing and I am still alive. So that part's good, right? So now let's take our time and work our way back. But the big thing is just understanding that one basic truth. Hey, this is an emotional thing that's triggering a physical response, but chances are I'm not going to die from it.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens. People get in a hurry, and then they try to even rush through a panic attack instead of taking that 1 second to pause and be like, oh, I'm alive. I'm okay. Like, I'm breathing. I'm thinking that I'm, and I guess the truth really is, if you think you're having a panic attack, you might not be, because if you were really having a panic attack, you wouldn't be able to think about it.
Exactly. Yep.
Judge Lynn, you're shaking your head, and when you think about people being in a hurry and rushing to the altar and getting quick divorces also, give us some insight on that. What's the value in rushing? Why should we take our time?
Ain't none. I don't believe, it just isn't. I mean, you just, you need to really vet people. And I think that we get carried away by how we feel with this whole thing, and we don't really sit back and vet them, and not just vet the statistics or what you put on a resume, but like, how does she or he behave when they're sick? How does she or he behave when they lose their job or mama call and they don't know how to act? What goes on when it gets funky and ugly, and you can't know until you see it. And it's too late if you've already moved in when you see it. So I always recommend stay where you are and watch them. Just watch them, because that first feeling goes away, and you got to live with the rest of him after that thing he used to make you feel goes away.
And what do you think about emotional attachments in COVID, right? So like, you spend some time knowing people virtually, and then you probably, take a chance and you meet up in person. And how do you know what's real and pretend? And how can you figure it out quickly to protect yourself?
It ain't quick. Everybody wants an answer quickly. Ain't no such thing. everything in the fullness of time. Marriage, if it done right, lasts a long time. I'm 33 years into this sucker. And there's no way in the world that I could have quickly discerned whether or not this dude I picked was the right one. It took me 2 years to figure out he was the right one, because I had to see him go through something. I saw him one day when his kid was missing. Tells you a lot about who this dude is when he's in a crisis. He got very calm. He got very quiet. He got very focused, very centered. He didn't yell. He got things. It told me a lot about who this cat was. And I was like, I want to sign on for this.
Yeah.
It spoke to me.
Yeah. You know, Chuck, that brings up something important I've figured out, and I'm sure you guys have too. It seems like for us as humans, you never know who we really are or who a person really is until the day where they get everything they always thought they wanted, or the day where they think they lose it all.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. I think that I love the notion of things revealing themselves in the full complement of time. And one of the things I've had to ask myself in the past, and also ask clients with whom I've worked and friends and people writ large, is just, what is the hurry? Like, what presses you to hurry? We're so good at being patient in other domains, but when it comes to love, it seems like there's a lot of people who think that if they don't get it now, they're never going to get it. Like, this is their last chance, so they better make it work. And I think that sense of urgency is a contaminant to really looking at another person clearly and getting to know them. I think it's really important too that people aren't perseverating on what other people think of them all the time, but also evaluating what people are seeing coming their way. Like, if there's a virtual relationship during COVID, you might be sitting in your living room totally charmed by the person on the other end of the screen, and you're completely, obsessed with what they're thinking of you. And you fail to ask, well, hold on, what do I think of them? I've been so caught up in them evaluating me, I haven't had the time to actually ask myself, does this person complement my life? Does this person up-level me in any way? What do they bring to the equation of my already moving parts? So I think it's really important, as both have said, not to be in such a hurry to stampede towards love that you miss the information gathering. It's really critical.
I think that's a great point. And you talk about, there are billions of dollars that people lose every year on those love scams. And it works because that person tells you what you want to hear about you. He elicits a feeling in you, and you associate that great feeling with this individual over there without ever making an assessment of who that individual is, because they are spending all their time feeding your emotional, hamster wheel. He loves me, he loves me, he loves me, he loves me, he's good, he thinks I'm pretty, he does this, he says all the right things, blah, 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 blah. And you don't think, it's been 2 years. He says he's only true to me. He's 32 years old and I'm 67. What are the odds he didn't have sex these last 24 months? You don't think it through.
Right.
But it's not true, and you believe it because your brain is getting what it wants.
Yep.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
I think it's so funny. And how, like, if you go to the zoo, or you go to the when we were going to the zoo, they'd say, like, don't feed the lions, or, don't feed certain animals. Everybody watching, stop feeding the narcissist, right? If you tell a narcissist they're handsome, they're going to eat what you're feeding them, then they're going to feed it back, and they're going to reel you in, and you're going to be in trouble, So, you've really got to figure out how to do your homework. And Dr. Ish, it's a little bit off topic, but, how do you recognize a narcissist? Like, I'm asking.
Oh my Lord!
No, I
just threw that bomb in there.
I'm just asking for a couple of reasons. One, I've seen a lot of evidence of that on some of these marriage boot camp issues. And number two, there's several questions in the chat about, how do you protect yourself from, from people who have ill intentions?
Yeah, so I think a narcissist is always going to be the most polished person in the room, right? Their suit will be impeccable. the way they talk will be impeccable, right? The way they carry themselves, they will carry themselves in a manner that just naturally attracts you to them, because at the end of the day, what the narcissist wants and needs more than anything is attention, right? And it's not attention for the sake of attention. It's attention because to the narcissist, attention equals love. Admiration equals love. Adoration equals love, because they have an attachment style where they didn't get any of that love when they were kids, right? You know, when we talk about attachment styles, there are generally 4 different ones. And most of us used to think that that we had half the people in the country, maybe 60%, had a very secure attachment style. We were secure in who we were, secure to mom, secure to dad, secure to that love figure. And then we could go out in the world and make some more secure attachments. But the real number is probably a lot closer to about 30, 35, 40%. Most of us just don't have a very secure attachment. And so a narcissist is the pinnacle. It's the peak of that. When we talk about personality disorders, right? Narcissistic personality disorder, that is one of the 9, right? And it's in that class that we call the wild and the woolly. We've got our narcissists, we've got our antisocials, and we've got our borderline personality disorders, and they have very insecure attachments. Maybe they're very avoidant in the way they attach to people, or very fearful in the way they attach to people. So when we talk about narcissists, you want to look for grandiose. They're extremely important. I'm the most important person in the world. I'm actually the best. I don't know if you knew this, Louisa, but I'm actually the best psychiatrist in the world
Ever.
from what I've heard over the last, 10, so right? So that's the narcissist. They live in this fantasy world. They have these delusions of grandeur. They want you to believe it, because the more you believe it, the more they can actually believe
Yeah, but
it.
that, yeah, but that's
Can
what's
I ask
happening.
you a question?
Yeah.
And we've been here, but we've been on this page before. But it's not talk about everything. But what's the difference between, a narcissist and your basic level jackass? Because I think that a lot of people will remember we were there in that day, and that girl said, he's a narcissist, because I Googled it and I checked off all the boxes. And I think a lot of people fling around these diagnoses and don't. So can you tell me the difference between?
Sure.
Wait, and when you answer that, answer it in terms of COVID, because what I'm finding is, so when people were out in the world and could get their narcissistic or their jackass tendencies fixed on just staying high on the streets and having interactions, they operated at a more even keel. Now with COVID, as people are isolated, they're really stronger than ever, because they're not getting their egos fed.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say, and then I want to throw a few crumbs in the water.
Sure. So I think, Judge, I love that question, the difference between a narcissist and a jackass. A jackass on some level knows they're being a jackass, okay? A narcissist on no level realizes he's being a narcissist, he or she, right? Because they've got this, it's their defense mechanism. It's how they get through the world, right? A narcissist has to exploit you in order to feel better. They have this humongous sense of entitlement. They frequently are going to demean you or put you down, not because they're just in jackass mode, because it's what they need to survive. They think that without doing that, they're not going to get the love they need to survive, and so he's got to do it. The hallmark figure of a narcissist is that there is no empathy, right? I don't care what Alyssa's day was like. I'll listen to it as long as I can get to say something cool about myself and she likes that. I don't care what Judge Toler's day was like or how her week has been, because it's really all about me. A narcissist is a kid who's dropped in the lake without a life jacket and has no idea how to swim, and they're desperately clinging on to anything around to help them feel some secure attachment to this world. Maybe if they like me, maybe if they admire me, maybe if they want me, maybe if they desire me, maybe if they think I'm smart or rich or overly beautiful, they will like me, and then I will have a chance, and then I will be okay.
Oh, it's like,
otherwise, they act very poorly when they feel that. They get very angry when they feel that.
Yeah, I think it's really brilliant to talk about the difference. I think it's a brilliant question. I think it's also a question of degree and your own personal response. When you are love bombed by a narcissist, it feels like the sun is shining directly on your head, and you are the person this human being has waited for their whole life. They will tell you you're perfect. They will shower you with compliments. They will rush towards the future as though their house were on fire and you were water. A jackass is a jackass. Like, you can actually feel the difference because you're impressed with a narcissist and you feel insecure. With a jackass, you just feel a little bit pissed off. A narcissist will leave you questioning yourself from the first interaction. Am I good enough? Did I impress them? Wow, did he really or did she really mean all those wonderful things? You start getting this flurry of anticipation. A jackass is just inconsistent. In the beginning, a narcissist is actually very consistent because they're roping you in. The narcissist becomes inconsistent once they have your engagement, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that there are some people that really truly do have an inner light and really might come across in the beginning as being a narcissist because they seem too good to be true. And sometimes that hurts people who are actually good people, because there's a lot of people say, gosh, somebody called me a narcissist and there's no way I'm a narcissist. Well, your first reaction is to think, well, only a narcissist would say they're not a narcissist. But in reality, the clue is that when somebody has true empathy and they're really sad that you would even call them a narcissist, that's a pretty good sign that they might not be a narcissist, because the key there is having that empathy. You know, when you see that someone legitimately feels bad about something that you said to them, that's a good indication that, you know, they're probably not a narcissist, because that narcissist has the inability to really feel that sadness.
Or they are really sophisticated in their capacity to get their needs met. Meaning that the narcissist has overdeveloped skills when it comes to getting their needs met. There is no line which they will not cross. Right. So it is not impossible that you could look somebody with narcissistic traits right in the eye and say, you've hurt me, and they would smile back and say, I'm so sorry, when their interior world would not feel sorry. They have just learned to impersonate empathy. And
yes, that's
really tricky. It's very nuanced. And that's why I say, like, take your time. Like, really take your time, because no one's going to show you their true hand right away. No one advertises all their fatal flaws on the first date. Like, I love those memes where people say, like, I want to sit down and discuss my daddy issues and my credit report. Like, and the other person across the table says, and I have abandonment issues and I drink too much. Like, no one leads with that. So just take time. Like, I'm from Ohio, and this maxim was said to me so much as a child. A good idea on Monday is still a good idea on Wednesday, is still a good idea next Tuesday. Like, continue to do your due diligence and really lean into your intelligence. Like, we know when something isn't serving us. We just paint the red flag pink.
Where in Ohio are you from?
Cincinnati.
Oh, that's the one place my sister went to medical school there. My husband went to she went to UC medical school. My husband went to UC. He was strong safety. Had nothing to do with that. I just wanted to say.
Oh no, that's great. That's what it is. We're all trying to get to know each other, and so you know.
Talk about Ohio. I'm an Ohio girl. I can't always agree with the politicking, but there was some fundamental value system that was embedded in the culture there, which was take your time. And I think a lot of that had to do weirdly with some of the agricultural practices in the area, which leads me back to thinking about the very beginning and being now stuffed in your house with a bunch of people with the rhythm sort of disrupted. It's not that the rhythm's entirely disrupted. It's just like we're kind of living all four seasons at once. Like, you know, it's not like these are new seasons per se. Obviously, this virus is new, but this is just, everything's crunched together. Everything feels compacted. So whether it's dating or, you know, relating, whatever the case may be, it's just we're going through all of it now. So that's the patience piece and the spaciousness. And I love when you said, we know when to go outside. We know when to take a pause. Like, that ebb and flow and that rhythmic creation, you created over 30 years of seasons together. So I would think, Dr. Ishin, you can confirm or deny that this could be the case. Like, newer relationships are probably going to feel an instability in all the time together if they haven't really carved out how to be together and alone.
Yeah, that's the instability. Yeah, it's the discomfort of it, right? There's an ebb and a flow. There's a night that follows day. There's sleep time, there's awake time, and your relationships have a cycle. And the folks who've done it successfully, like Judge, you realize that cycle. It's like, okay, I know where we are because we've been here before, and this is how we got up last time, so we can just adjust and shift and move through it. But when you can't figure out the cycle, when you feel like you're literally playing a game of dodgeball and it's 5-on-1, you just don't know what's coming next, then that's kind of where we all are. It's all kind of jumbled together. And we live in a culture where we don't like that. We don't like to be, we like to know what comes next, right? And we don't like to have to be forced to sit still and analyze stuff and think about ourselves. That makes us very uncomfortable. And so this crisis, it's forced some very uncomfortable conversations. And as a culture, we like to be liked, and we don't like having those uncomfortable conversations. And that's the other thing that's happening for new couples and for older couples, right? You run out of the quick and easy stuff to talk about very rapidly these days. And it's like, okay, now we've got the credit report talk is coming in a week or two, and that's a whole lot in a new relationship. You know what I mean?
Hey, speaking of credit reports and relationships, there's a great website called Truth Finder where you can find a lot of stuff out about people. And yeah, truthfinder.com. You can find a lot out for $29.99. And speaking of that, there's some questions in the chat specifically for Judge Lynn that talk about, when something doesn't feel right and, you're contemplating trust issues, what are some things you can do and what should you look out for? And how do you know when to draw the line when it comes to trust?
Well, I mean, when something doesn't feel right, usually when you have that first rush of love, you're not really in tune to what feels right, and what feels right often is the wrong thing. And I know I do a lot of work with domestic violence victims. And so my what doesn't feel right radar always looks out for that first. And I always tell women, but men too, that, if you meet you on Monday, I can't live without you on Tuesday, you got a problem on Wednesday. It isn't because you're fantastic. It's because he has possession issues. It's because I love you so much. Watch his relationships or her relationships with other people. If all of his exes are nasty, horrible bees and hoes and all of that kind of stuff, what's different about you? You just haven't had enough time to become one of those for him. How does he treat his mama? How does she spend her money? I mean, there's nothing specific to look for. I mean, there's a lot of things to look for. There's a lot of things to look out for, but all of that rapid possessive love thing is what I always warn little people. I'm 61, so everybody little people to me.
I needed your show a month ago. Where were you?
Huh?
I said, I needed this show a month ago. Where were you?
Because that's the kind of thing, by the time, if you don't pay attention to the early signs of that kind of thing, by the time you get to it and you're in Dr. Ish's office talking about, he won't let me leave the house and how did I get here? You gotta know the early signals of a possessive, insecure person. And those are some of the signs. Ish, you wanna jump on that one?
Yeah. One of the big signs, and Alyssa touched on it earlier, they're gonna gaslight you, right? They're gonna turn everything you knew or you thought you knew about yourself and your life and your people and your family and your friends upside down. They're gonna make you question it. Because the main thing they want to do is get you isolated, right? I need to be your only source of reliable information, your only source of love, your only source of dependency. Everything you need in this life, I need you to come to me for, and that way I can turn it on and off as I see fit. And once I do that, now I can control you. They don't want you to have girlfriends to bounce ideas off of that sounded crazy to you, but you're going to bounce them off of your girlfriends just to see. They don't want that. They don't want you to have a place to go to when they start treating you bad. And so with everything Judge said, one of the main things is just watch for that isolation, right? They love when you show up and none of your family likes them, and none of your girlfriends like them, but you continue to. And now it's it's like you're catching a marlin. They slowly are reeling you in more and more and more. And that's the way it is, and they show those little bursts, those little flashes. If you're paying attention, it makes sense. But if you just eager to shrug it off, they'll show you those flashes of anger. Nobody shows up on the first dates and punches you in the face. Ever.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I always go to, and I've said this to Louisa a bunch. One of the maxims of the practice I have, both for myself and with other people, is don't paint the red flag pink. What do I mean by that? We are experts at looking away from what we see. We curate information to fit the story we want to have told. And part of growing up and taking responsibility for our lives is looking at life as it is without curating it, without, making it different, without being wishful about it. You can fall in love with somebody's potential and it will be the thing that takes you down every single time. If we don't pay attention in the beginning, we've already sabotaged ourselves. So I'm always interested in the question again, what's the hurry? How are you convinced so soon? And why is your love so easily given away?
Yeah, and that's just a beautiful thing. And when we think about one of the things that we wanted to do with this Life, Love, and Lessons, brief weekly segment to kind of get everyone in tune, is we wanted to kind of round out every show at the end with a minute of mindfulness, a real minute, right? So we've asked Alyssa to kind of guide us into how do you recenter and make sure that you are the priority. Maybe you're looking for love. Maybe you're worried if your spouse or your partner is cheating, the trust issues, you're worried about your job, whatever you're worried about, forget it. And let's take a minute and give it to Alyssa.
Now, Alyssa, if you can get me to be mindful for an entire 60 seconds, I'm going to send you some money. I have been unable.
All right. Well, I'm going to set a timer.
So girlfriend, go ahead with it.
All right. Here we go.
This is really an invitation from my heart to yours. So all I'm going to ask you to do is, if it feels safe for you, just close your eyes and begin to breathe through your nose, filling up the abdomen, filling up your chest and your head, and noticing the stillness in your body. Any ambient sounds are just part of life, and you can cast your gaze upon them and return to the breath. Imagine the most warm and glowing light radiating from your heart and circulating through you. You were born to breathe. Your body is engineered to breathe, and you are safe. You are perfect, just as you are, just because you were born. You are safe, and you are worthy of love. With each breath, you can nourish yourself. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to be. Allow yourself to rest in that perfect stillness. As thoughts come, just watch them come and go like clouds in the sky, and know that within you lies everything you need. You are divinely created, and you are full of love. With that, you can take a deep breath in and open your eyes. And even if the whole world didn't stop, maybe for just a minute, it slowed down. And maybe for just a minute, you tapped into that deep worthiness. That's your birthright. You are worthy of love. There's nothing to do to get it. You are worthy of love and you are safe.
Well, Judge Lynn, how'd she do?
I got to dinner about 30 seconds in, so I'm gonna work on it. Work on it.
Good.
We're all
Good.
watching each other.
Work in progress.
All of us.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And that's exactly the point. We are coming together because COVID is real. And the tender words in Alyssa's meditation, learning to compose yourself when you can't breathe, those words now forever are embedded in us because of the so many horrors that have been faced during this tumultuous time in the world and in our lives. And when you can't breathe, whether it's a panic attack, whether you play this back and listen to some of the great advice from Dr. Ish, whether you think about the reality check that Judge Lynn has given us all and continues to give us every day about just making sure you have your priorities in order. And when you think of the things that Alyssa said, related to giving yourself just a minute, we come together and we know that this is why we're here, for life, love, and lessons. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Ish. Thank you, Judge Lynn. Thank you, Alyssa. Love is wonderful. Love is great. Love is terrific compared to hate. And that's life, love, and lessons.
There is a ghost town in my heart. I've been there many times, my compass always finds a way.